but yeah, but kind of thing. And then the other, what's the idea is that only one person really has anything to say, and the other one is constantly, I'm trying to track you. Am I understanding what you're saying is blah, blah, blah? And their only concern is to understand what the other person is saying.
Because when I had the two, it was like dual forces just hitting each
Yeah,
other.
yeah.
And I would just I would feel more worked up about it.
Yeah, more tense, yeah. No crying is going to come out of that, huh? No, just more, yeah. Wow. Well, that's a pretty good insight. I bet you a lot of people, they'll sit down and do the dialogue that way for a while, before they flip over. What helped you flip over? Do you remember to do this? Was some breakthrough or an idea hit you, or?
No, I just remembered what you said, the last time about trying to do it a different way. So I thought, well, let me try it my way. I'm going to do it my way.
Right,
and then I realized, well, this isn't making me feel any better. I'm going to try the other way.
Well, it's also interesting too in terms of being a healing presence, that is, being with yourself in a healing way and ultimately with others in a healing way, that you don't really need to do anything in terms of make suggestions, try to fix it, or what have you. Just validating how the person feels, at least you found for yourself, was a healing experience. You came away feeling better, relieved, calmed down, and so on, without doing anything more than just being there. That's kind of amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
Because and that's one of the things I've been struggling with through this process is, and actually my aunt had told me, April, remember, just be there. Just be there. She was telling me that in terms of being with other people.
Right.
But I took it in terms of being with myself. Just be there.
Sure.
And it's so simple, but it's so complex in the same sense.
Yeah. Well, we're learning about it in the overt form of listening, starting with ourselves. But I think that you could be there in the sense of, say it was somebody else, you could be there doing your knitting if what was going on inside was of the same spirit as you're learning in this listening to yourself. Somehow conveying to the other person that you're there, you're paying attention, you care a whole lot, and you're tracking it. Definitely tracking it. So, well, that's neat. Appreciate your sharing. So you tell me, Nelson, about your reflections or experience doing this self-listening.
Well, the self-listening thing was, I've noticed several different things going on at first. And then the main problem I was having was just opening up to myself. Ordinarily, I'm kind of a control type of person. At least I like to express myself that way as a controlling person. And I also like to have a fairly wide range of facts at hand before I make decisions. So this was really kind of an interesting experience for me. And I had a difficult time opening up to myself. What I found happening was as I was playing the part of the talker and then the part of the listener, there was another person coming into play, and that was a person that seemed to be standing aside and going, hey, no, I think what you really wanted to say was this, and no, I think what he really said was that. And it was almost as if there was a judge involved, and it was like a referee. And I found that rather annoying, and I had to get rid of that person in order to be honest. And I think honesty was a key principle here.
Now, I'm not sure that I'm understanding completely this third party. The third party was arguing with the listener about what the talker really said?
On both sides. It's almost like, well, you really meant to say this. And so let's just change it a little bit. And that interference from that third person was really difficult to get over.
So it would be kind of like if I was the talker and I might say something like, well, I'm feeling a little tense and tired this evening, and then before the listener could almost say, so you're feeling a little tense and a little tired, this judge comes in and says, you didn't say that right. What you should have said was, you're feeling really beat today and you're really pissed off, and or something like that.
Well, it was almost trying to justify the position. In other words, in order to maintain control, this person was helping the talker to maintain control of the situation. It didn't want to be opened at first, and that it was interfering. In other words, what I would do is, okay, well, I felt this way about this particular thing, and I would move myself over into the other position and go, wait a minute, and then halfway over I'd shift and go, well, really what he really was saying is that he really felt this way about something else, or put a little different twist on it. And the twists were what was really throwing me off at first. So I found that by really just telling that third person to just shut up and stay out of this, and really going back to what the initial statement was and reacting to that, that was more important. So that was my first hurdle in terms of trying to open up to even myself.
But you seem to gain some kind of an insight that the judge was really there to protect you in some way as part of your way of maintaining control and not being what you call being open, I guess, stepping into the unknown, or...
Well, I thought that at first. Well, what is this person really doing if there is, in fact, a third person there? And I think what that person was doing was protecting my ego of the person that was talking. And really what I was trying to do was open up myself in terms of, we look at this process, I looked at it from an intellectual point of view as being more soulful rather than spiritual. In terms of, okay, well, what we're really doing is we're going back into some sort of the past, and we're going to try and put some kind of a framework around it to make some kind of feeling sense out of it so that it's okay, rather than trying to expect something spiritual to develop out of it. It was really a retrieval process. And because of that, not wanting to be retrieved, I'm wounded, and I got that way, and I'm going to stay that way if it kills me. And that's okay. That was a bad idea, and that's what this judge person was trying to maintain. And I found that was very difficult to overcome. And it wasn't until I basically just said, I've got to get rid of this person somehow, or this judge somehow, that I started to make some kind of progress. That took about 2 weeks.
Wow.
So
you really had to put a lot of work into this, huh, to have it happen for you.
It kept popping up, and it's like, well, it's like, okay, bag it for a few minutes, come back to it if you have to, and start over.
Wow.
And it wasn't until you could get all the way through a process without having something interrupt me that I felt that I was getting anywhere. So. And these were only like 10-15 minute exercises, so it really wasn't a big deal to come back to it later. It wasn't as if I'd abandoned 2 or 3 hours worth of processing.
Well, it takes a lot of concentration, though. I guess you saw how to do this.
Yeah,
so 15 minutes is still a long time.
Well, back and forth, well, 10-15 minutes, however long it take. I mean, I wasn't running a clock, but it seemed like sometimes it was taking forever, mainly because you really don't want to admit to certain things to yourself or that kind of thing. So that was what was. And
you were working in a private area, so nobody was going to have to know about any of this but you, right?
Nobody knows but me.
So you weren't recording it as you went, or thinking it, or what was your modality that you were using?
Well, I wasn't prepared to write it. As far as journaling goes, I've done a little bit of journaling, but again, what ends up happening when I'm journaling is this person comes in, and maybe that's where I get where he came from. I mean, I've always, I start talking about this, and then I try and make it more academic, try to put it into some sort of perspective so that it makes sense, rather than just letting it flow. And I think the flowing was more important in this exercise.
Well, we've seen from talking to these students that this process of self-reflective listening has a number of challenges as well as some benefits. Some of the challenges seem to be, as I listen to them, is first of all, having too much of a sense of control over the process, being so worried about doing it right or what might come out.